we've done this. I don't remember how it goes.
When was the last time we did it?
1967. You remember how this goes?
What's been going on here? There's a lot, but I can't think of any of it. Oh, I forgot the term. That's nothing important.
From the John DeVito Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, April the 24th, the year 2019. And now here they are, still hunting for their Easter eggs, Jim and Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could
come
you
to
hear
think
me,
of
Jim?
it, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get. I wonder where they are. Gee, it's been so long since we've done one of these. I can't remember what we're supposed to do now. I guess we talk.
Yeah, who are the Bears going to draft?
I don't know. Third round.
You see that? Miles Sanders from Penn State.
Okay.
They were talking about whether
And did you see the big news that
Robbie Gould wants a trade from San Francisco.
Robbie Gould wants to be closer to home where his wife and kids are?
But John Lynch says Robbie is going to be a 49er this coming year. So you realize
draft
the
is
Bears can't afford Robbie Lynch. I mean
Robbie
Gould.
Gould. Yeah. No. The draft is what?
That's got to be coming up here
Tomorrow or Friday?
Tomorrow, I think.
Tomorrow?
I think
John says. If John says it's tomorrow.
I think so.
Yeah, no, John probably knows better than we do. You know what the paper keeps having articles about the Bears, and so that's the hint that the draft is coming up, but they never say in the articles what day the draft is.
Well, ABC has been shamelessly promoting the fact that they're going to carry all 3 days of it with the College Game Day crew as being the hosts and Robin Roberts. So I have a feeling this is going to be really, really overblown and annoying.
Now, where is it going to be this year?
Nashville. Yeah, so I just have a feeling it's going to be really annoying and overblown, and I'm probably not going to watch, especially since the Bears aren't going to pick until the third round.
I never watch it. What else do you think? What other positions are they going to pick? Running back?
Running back, maybe.
Another kicker?
They've got 3 kickers that they've signed already.
And how do you say Blewett? Is it Blue-A? Chris
Blue-A?
Blue-A?
I think it's supposed to be. But I keep looking and going, Chris Blewett.
Yeah, what a name for a kicker, Chris Blewett. I love it.
We had that last year.
Yeah.
That's what
Let me ask a question. Talking about last year, I was thinking about this a few weeks ago. Now, if Cody Parkey's name was Roquan Smith, and he decided to go on the Today Show after the playoff game, you think he would have been cut?
No.
Sort of doubt it.
I kind of doubt it.
Yeah,
they would
so,
have
you know what? I don't think you would have heard
s-
any of this bullshit about team. Yeah. Oh, that's not the team thing. You know what, Nagy? You're full of shit, okay? Yeah, that's what I have to say.
I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have been. You really shouldn't have done that. Don't do that again.
Of course, I can't talk about Nagy because his sandals only get wet on the bottom in Chicago now. Till next year, when I don't think the Bears will be quite as good.
I'm thinking. Of course, I loved it when the schedule comes out. Immediately, everyone's predicting it. You got about 5 predictions on what the
what do you
the
think,
record
though?
is. Yeah.
It's going to be a tough schedule.
It's going to be a tough schedule.
You know what, though? I'm going to go back
9
to what
or 10, 9 or 10 wins, and I'm going to look at it and go, really good.
I'm going to go back to what I always say, though. You can't look at the schedule today
no.
and have any idea what these teams are going to be like when the season starts.
You have no idea what it's going to be like because you haven't even gone through the draft. The usual pilgrimage during training camps.
Now, do you think we're going to have a downtick on the defense because Vic Fangio's gone and Pagano's here?
I think you're going to have a little bit of one.
Plus, you know what?
But Pagano always had a great reputation as a defensive coach.
The 2 guys that we got to replace Callahan and Amos, I'm not really, here's the thing.
I wasn't familiar enough with him.
Dick, well, no. I mean, Clinton
Oh,
Dix
Ha-Ha
was
Clinton
one of your
Dix.
favorites.
Yes, true. There was the other one.
But my first question to these idiots who write in the papers is, if Dix is so great, how come the Packers let him go in the middle of the season to the Redskins, and how come the Redskins didn't re-sign him? What I see, and what I just read from the same idiots, is that Eddie Jackson and Dix are both guys who like to play the ball, but Dix is not a great tackler. Amos was a guy who could support. If you want to say the safety position is the last stand on the defense, Amos was a decent tackler. Dix is not in that category. So now you have a guy back there. Yeah, is he going to make some plays on the ball? Fine, but how much is he going to give up by the fact that he's not a good tackler?
Right. What's it going to cost if he misses that play on the ball?
And the other guy, Skrine, is the most penalized player in the league. Okay, as the nickelback.
Okay.
So I mean, they love his ability, but I'm not so sure that we had an upgrade. I think hopefully we'll have it'll be a wash, but I'm not sure it's even going to be that.
It'll be interesting watching training camp. Actually, it's going to be interesting. Would you expect them to try to trade up and get a draft pick earlier than the what are they picking? 87th?
No, I don't think he's, who knows what he's going to do, but I don't see him making any trades because what would they trade to get it to trade up?
That would be that's why I asked it. If you had any idea what they might trade, I think they already did their trade with the Eagles when Jordan Howard went there, but that doesn't even affect this year's draft.
Now, look, there's another thing. What do you think about the handling of Jordan Howard overall? I'm not talking about the trade. I'm talking about, here you have on one hand, the media is telling you that Nagy is just a damn genius. But you know what? On the other hand, could not find a way to use Jordan Howard in the offense. So how genius can he be?
How smart can he be then?
So he didn't fit, but yet now here's the other thing. They trade him to the Eagles, who are supposed to be very bear-like, or the Bears are supposed to be eagle-like in their offense. So the Eagles must see something in Jordan Howard, right? And
I'll be curious to see how they use him.
But no, you know what? To be totally honest with you, Jim, what I started to look, and I didn't look in depth, but what little information I got, Jordan Howard's yards per carry over the course of his time with the Bears just kept declining
as the year down.
So you could, I think not last year so much, but the previous year, I want to say he had maybe a shoulder injury or some type of injury, and maybe that has lingered and affected his production. But one of the things I have to say, when I watched the Bears, and I watched a lot of them last year, I could almost predict as a civilian when they handed the ball to Howard just exactly where they were going to hand it to him and where he was going to go. It was seemed to me a very limited number of plays that were called for him.
Then maybe the league caught up.
Yeah.
The league caught up and figured it out. You see this is where he's going, this is how we key on him.
Yeah, that's what I would think, because it seemed that they were always stacked. They were ready to stop him. And, to me, every time I saw him run, it was always to the right and never outside.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's an outside runner.
No.
But it was always off tackle. But I'm saying to give
Neil Anderson came to mind when you started saying that. It seemed like what Neil Anderson always seemed to do.
Howard has a good point, and I guess maybe one of the reasons that he wouldn't fit into this offense is he's the type of guy who you need to hand him the ball 20, 25 times to get the best out of him. And you're not going to have that in this offense.
No. This offense isn't made for that.
No. I tell you, if I was a running back, I'd be sort of pissed off, though, because you know what? You want the ball. And you know what? As a running back, I want the ball handed to me. I understand they'll throw it to you and all that crap, but you know what? Hand the ball to me. Yeah. I'm a running back.
Yeah. That's what you brought me here for.
Yeah.
It just did not fit, and it's a shame because I really liked him.
Oh, he's
I really
a good
liked
player.
him. That could have been.
He was a surprise.
Yeah.
Out of Indiana, 5th round pick, and
I mean that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So, well, we'll see what they find this time.
Sorry to jump right in there on you, Jim.
No,
but it was on my mind.
Yeah,
you know?
no,
I
I'm
mean,
glad you had something on your mind because I didn't. Know
I always get your mind going though, Jim.
I wasn't know where I didn't know where I was going with this today. I had some things in mind, and some of it was.
Jesus, Jim, you should have heard though. I have coffee with Joe DiGiovanni, who's probably he's like one of. I'll tell you, I've lost total respect for most Cubs fans, and I'm a Cubs fan myself. When 2-7 start,
oh God.
I mean, people
were they on
ready.
I
was,
ledge?
You know what?
Was he on the ledge?
Nail the window shut because he's on the ledge. How could they be this terrible? And here's what I say. You and I and him as well, or anybody who's watched this game or been involved in the game in any way for any length of time, would say, okay, when you tell me how could they be this bad, that tells me something right there. Yeah, they're stinking it up, but if you think they're going to stink it up like that the whole season, no, it's not going to happen.
You're going to go through. You've had the bull. I began to look at this, and I didn't know if I was going to be one of those on the ledge at first. I was just going to say, this has got to be a stretch because they ain't that bad.
Yeah.
You've got issues right now. You got Rizzo not hitting, but gee, at the beginning of every season, it seems like Rizzo isn't hitting.
Yeah.
Bryant, I'm not sure quite where he is, if it's still an issue with his shoulder.
Yeah.
Baez is fine. Schwarber, even though he went back to his old stance, it looks like he's hitting the way he was with his old stance at about 203.
Yeah.
Your starting pitching is, your number 2 starter, Darvish. I'm still not convinced he's worth it.
I just don't get what the heck.
I don't know what they see in him.
In spring training, he was good. He was solid.
Light air.
I mean, but
light air.
Arizona. I listened. I have. I've seen maybe a little bit of a couple of Cubs games. But I hear more of it on the radio.
Yeah, I do too.
And it seemed it was probably the best outing that he had this year. So it was the one before the last one, and the way Coomer and Hughes were laying it out, it was just sort of puzzling. He was relying heavily on the curve, and when he was, putting it over, it was effective. But when he was missing by a lot. And they started to talk about how many pitches he actually throws, and they were sort of laughing about it because other people on the Cubs are laughing about it in a good-humored way, not in a negative way. And I started to think, the one guy that I remember from way back when that had a lot of pitches and a lot of varieties of delivery was Juan Marichal. But he was an exception. I always am a little hesitant when you hear, a guy's got like 7 different pitches. You don't need 7 different pitches.
No. You don't.
And so I'm not sure. Maybe that's part of the problem with him, that he just has not ever got a set game plan with what he wants to use.
When you get in a situation when Tyler Chatwood is more impressive.
Well, I mean, Tyler Chatwood, hopefully he'll be a pleasant surprise for us.
I would hope so. Certainly, that last outing, he certainly looked good.
He was strong.
Quintana has looked good at times.
Quintana is the ace of the staff.
Right now, he's the ace.
He's been really tough.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the guy who got it turned around for us.
And the bullpen suddenly figured it out.
Yeah.
It was kind of an interesting point, made me think, and I can't remember where the discussion was on this. They always say hitting is contagious.
Mm-hmm.
Good hitting, sometimes bad hitting, is contagious.
Yeah.
What about pitching? Good pitching contagious? Bad pitching contagious?
No, I think it could be contagious, especially good pitching can be contagious. Guys, I think they piggyback on it, no question about that. I was thinking as you're talking about the pitching, the guys. I just thought I read the other day where Morrow, they shut him back down again.
Yeah. Problem with the elbow again, I guess.
So,
And this was before a rehab, going off for rehab.
the thing that that gives me some confidence, and there's never anything that's 100% guaranteed, but Joe Madden is a good enough manager that he can work with some of these things. He makes it work. He'll try things until something does work. And so, I honestly, when I hear people down talk our manager, I think they're really, going off half cocked, because I think Joe Madden is a big reason why we're having a lot of the success we're having. No doubt we have good talent, but I think he knows how to. Now, sometimes there's things he does that aggravates me too, but I think if you look at the bigger picture, I think he does a really good job.
He does. He really does. He does, and I think you and I have talked about this before and said, who does Madden remind you of?
Yeah, Casey Stengel. We always say
Casey Stengel.
Yeah,
because he'd make something out of nothing. I don't know what it is this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was just a gut reaction. My first feeling was this might be a team that's going to be aggravating all year and struggle to 85 wins.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Team.
Lately, maybe it's just going to be one of those. Maybe it's just going to be one of those years. The question I would ask now, I said to you, since you said, since you brought up Joe, is he going to be back next year? I would.
Yeah, I think that's you could, to me, roll the dice.
I
don't
think
know.
so.
It's hard to tell.
I think so.
What they have in mind, and maybe they're just figuring, because what is Joe pushing 70?
No, he's. I think he's hit 65.
So maybe they're looking down the road, and when the Hawks replaced Quenneville with Colleton, I remember when reading the Hawks article in the paper when they hired Colleton at Rockford, that little thing in the back of my head went off. I'm like, maybe this guy, because I think whoever we replaced, and I don't remember who that was, had been having some good success at Rockford. When they, replaced whoever that was with Colleton, I'm thinking, what? Maybe this guy is the guy they got in mind for Quenneville.
The heir apparent.
So maybe there's somebody that's not even on the major league level at this point, that's somewhere in the system that they have respect for and that they might want to put into that job.
That could be, because I think you're seeing with a lot of ball clubs now, the days of the high-priced manager might be in the past.
Yeah.
Everybody say, "Oh, Joe Girardi." Well, Joe Girardi's going to want $6 or $7 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Joe is probably going to be doing MLB TV.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what's interesting, too, I don't know, thinking about managers, Davey Roberts is in town with the Dodgers.
With the Dodgers.
And I read Greenberg's article about the Cubs yesterday and the Dodgers coming into town. And, Davey Roberts, the manager, and, blah, blah, blah. And they do have a lot of talent. The Dodgers, if there's one team in the National League who could probably go toe-to-toe with the Cubs talent-wise, it's the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, I agree.
But you know what? For my money, everybody criticized, including me, why did Madden do what he did in the seventh game when we won the World Series? Yeah, you know what? We did win the World Series. What I've seen Davey Roberts do the last two World Series,
overmanaged,
totally overmanaged, and so you're saying, you can't deny that he's had success during the season, but in the ultimate, test of a manager, he's failed twice so far. And I got to say, I really think he's the reason they lost those two series. I mean, when he came back with Darvish in the seventh game against the Astros, and when he, to me, he worked that bullpen. One of the reasons we're having trouble with our closer here in Chicago is because he overworked those guys.
He overworked them all.
Year.
He overworked them all. He overworked them all, certainly in the playoffs.
Yeah. So, and I mean, to what effect? I mean, to me, if one guy was going good, leave him in two. He just went with that routine the whole time. And I think in that series with the Astros, as good as the Dodgers pitching was, the Astros saw it enough times. They finally solved it, and that was the end of it.
They solved it, and they certainly solved Darvish because he was tipping his pitches.
Yeah.
They were the ones that picked up on that.
Yeah.
And it made me kind of wonder when the Cubs signed him. I said, "Let's well, how are you going to solve him? How are you going to solve his issues of tipping his pitches?"
They should be able to see that. I don't think that's his problem, though. I mean, he's been. I think his issue right now is control. His control is terrible.
Is he? I looked it up and I can't remember. Has he always been one that's kind of high on the walks?
I don't know if he's been high on the walks. I'm very leery, though, Jim, of a guy they tell me, man, this guy's got great stuff, and he's never won more than 12 games in a season. We have Jeff Samardzija Light here. Or maybe it's Jeff Samardzija Dark. I don't know.
The East, the Far East version of Jeff Samardzija.
Jeff Samardzija.
Yeah.
Man, does he have great stuff.
He's
11 and 12 again this year.
Yeah, you brought up something, just talking about that, about, he's the greatest thing and going up. I had an idea, and I don't know why, it popped into my head. Maybe I might start it out as a blog or whatever, but I had this idea, maybe even turn it into a book. I have the title already.
Okay, that's a good start.
Lost on the Way to Cooperstown.
Oh, you're back on the whole thing of the Hall of the Very Good?
No, I'm talking about Can't Misses That Missed.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, Can't Misses That Missed.
Yeah.
And I mean, names were suddenly popping into my head like Gary Scott, Kevin Ory.
Boy, thinking of that, Jim, that is really weird that you bring that up, because I read the paper before I got there, and I'm looking at the deals section, and the Long Island, I think they're called the Ducks. They're an independent league team. Just signed Mike Olt.
There you go.
Yeah. Kevin
Ory. Oh my God, a name came back. Danny Murphy.
Danny Murphy. Jeez, yeah, that's that.
His only two stints in the major leagues were when he was signed by the Cubs and he hit about $130, I think.
Yeah.
And he came back in the late '60s as a relief pitcher with the White Sox.
The Sox, yeah. Well, back then they had those ridiculous rules, right? If you signed a guy for X amount of dollars, he had to stay on the major league roster.
That was even prior to that. I mean, that went back to the Koufax days.
Yeah.
But I don't know if those rules were still in place. But, Murphy was with the Cubs for parts of 2 seasons.
How about – go ahead.
Go ahead.
How about Billy Ott?
Billy Ott.
Or Nelson Matthews.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
B.B. Richards.
Yeah.
On the south side.
Byron Brown.
Yeah. I mean, I could do the whole book here.
Yeah.
just on Cub players, looking at Cub draft picks that were absolute flops. Earl Cunningham.
Yeah. Well,
Ty
Waller.
Ty Waller. Corey Patterson. Actually, I think Corey Patterson is a college baseball coach now. I did a little searching.
Who's the other guy? Felix P.A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jerome Walton burst on the scene, and that was it.
Yeah, I think that when you rely on, media to tell you, I think all of these guys have the ability at some point in time to open your eyes. But, of course, speed catches your eye. A guy with a great arm catches your eye. A guy who can drive the ball a long way catches your eye. But speed is always going to be there, and a great arm is always going to be there. But making the contact consistently as a hitter is a tough thing to do. So I think a lot of times the guys who watch these things the sports writers and the other media, they get wowed by a player in spring training. But there's a definite difference between swinging the bat and spring training and then when the regular season starts.
Sure. Come north out of that warm weather, and suddenly you got cold, and pitchers start throwing curveballs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the great scene, you go back and watch Major Leagues, and you see Pedro Serrano in the batting cage, and, he's drilling him off the scoreboard, and you go, and the manager makes the comment, Jesus, how did everybody miss him? And he tells the pitcher out there, he say, okay, throw him some curveballs.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And
Speaking, talking about this, Jim, though, what do you think about the start that Tim Anderson has had now? And Moncada, too.
Both of them are very impressive. I was going to bring up the Sox. I watched them quite a bit of the game on Sunday, the game against the Tigers. We were at her Dana's mom's place, and I was looking for the Cub game on her dish system that the home has, but I couldn't find it. But I found the Sox game, so I find the Sox very intriguing to watch. Anderson, Moncada, I don't know how well they'll keep it up all year. Jimenez, I think he might be a little too early.
Yeah, well, that's the usual thing. And I got to ask you this. It seems to me, now I think the Cubs are have a little more guts when it comes to this than the Sox.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to me that the Sox are really swayed by the media as far as bringing their players up. I mean, to me, I'm not saying that he would have avoided being injured. Why did they bring Kopech up last year? It didn't matter that they brought him up. He would have been just as well off. He could have thrown in the minors still.
He could have gotten injured down there.
Yeah.
He could have very easily gotten injured down there.
And the same with Jimenez. They're saying now, okay, we don't know how he's going to swing the bat. We know that he's got a big upside. But his defense, even Farmer and Jackson were talking a couple nights ago. He just let a couple balls fall right. Balls that were catchable just fell.
Watching the game on Sunday, it was like, I kept thinking of watching him out there. I thought it reminded me of George Bill, the way he used to surround fly balls.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem the Sox are going to have, though, Jim, is that a good buddy of mine is a Sox fan, but he's not like gung-ho where everything is great. He's a realistic guy. And he said, the Sox are going to be better. He says, but their defense is still terrible. And they actually, I don't know all, I cannot picture in my mind all the other teams in the majors, but there are probably very few teams who are less, who are as bad defensively as the Sox. The Sox are, you got Moncada, who's still iffy. You got Anderson, who's still iffy. You got Abreu, who's fair. He's gotten better.
Yeah,
you got
but
Jimenez, who's not good yet.
You're not going to. I don't think you're going to see Abreu at first very much this year.
They've been splitting the time.
Have they really?
Yeah,
I know.
So, I mean,
Alonso,
Abreu, he's been willing to give up some of that time to Alonso, but I think they've shared it pretty much.
Okay.
And it's their defense is what's going to eventually give
their
give
defense and their relief pitching is
in the middle.
Some days you go out, you see these guys go out there, and you go, "My God, they're fantastic." And other days it's.
No, they. Let's see. They'll beat out the Royals. I'm pretty sure. But the rest of the division, I'm not sure about.
I think they have as much upside as to get to maybe even third.
Yeah, they could.
They could easily get to third.
Yeah. What do you think of Renteria as a manager?
I always feel sorry for Rick.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it.
I really do.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who's so gung-ho about everything, and he gets handed big bowl of crap wherever he goes.
Could you imagine if you were him, and you get aced out on the Cubs right after a year. Now you take on the Sox, and they're rebuilding. and the records are poor, right? And you're the manager. Now the drumbeat is going to, as they get better, if that's what's going to happen, as they develop into a stronger team, I'm sure the media is going to have a little bit of a drumbeat that's going to start, is Renteria the guy for this team? And
Exactly.
how,
Exactly.
for me, I mean, I think I would have a trouble handling that in terms of, I'm going to fly off the handle at some point because, this is going to piss me off.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And rightfully so. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's
Yeah.
right. And but
I'm waiting for Renteria to break into a Lou Piniella when he's questioned about something. Well, what the hell do you want me to do?
yeah,
you know so damn much. You do it.
but one of the guys we have coffee with, Jim Kelly, is Renteria, and Jim is like that about a lot of people. But Renteria, he's no good. He never says why. I think Renteria does I don't think he does any worse job than any other manager, and I would like to see what kind of a job he would do with a decent ball club. So far, he has not had one in the whole time he's managed.
What is it? This is the third season here?
I think it's the third season. with the Sox.
So 4 years as a manager,
Right.
major league manager,
Right.
and he's had big piles of crap handed to him.
Yeah. Now, I think on the other flip side of that, though, every time I see him, I think he's also a guy who's in the category of, I'm just happy to be doing this.
He's happy to be there, and he's also, I think he's something that a lot of managers aren't, a teacher.
Yeah.
I really get that impression.
Yeah, which I think you have to be because the way it seems baseball is set up these days, you're getting so many young players, not just the Sox or the Cubs.
No.
You're getting so many young players that really are, if you want to compare eras, they're not ready as compared to a ball player who came up like when we were kids in the 60s or whatever. Those guys, as a rule, I'm not saying there couldn't have been some glitches in this, but as a rule, those guys were ready to play Major League Baseball.
You had in those days, I mean, back when there was D, C, B,
Yeah.
A, double A, triple A.
Yeah.
You had guys that worked their way up through the chain
Right.
and were probably 2 years older than some of these guys when they hit the big show.
Well, think about this. Anderson now, this is his third year or maybe fourth.
I think.
So, there's nothing to say that he'll continue on the pace that he's at. But put it this way, you definitely can see an improvement.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, Farmer, I think, was talking about this the other day, or both of them, him and Jackson, were saying, well, you know what? And they were talking about a kid that was playing shortstop for the Orioles. They have a kid named Martin who's hitting like 174. And even not seeing the game, Jim, you could sort of, from their description, see this kid is sort of like tentative, okay? He's not sure he should be there. So they talked about him and a couple other players. But they said, after 3 or 4 years in the majors, right, the first 2-3 years you might be thinking, you're probably overthinking a little bit. But by the fourth year, they're saying all of a sudden the light comes on, or should.
It should.
And you're ready to be a major league player.
You should. That's go ahead.
Some guys get it earlier, and I would assume if you don't get it by your fourth year, you're not going to get a chance to get it later.
Yeah. I was thinking about Daniel Palka.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what did he come up? He was like, what, 1 for 32?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to try to. You brought that up, and it reminded me. I had a missive from Statboy.
Yeah.
Talking about a player, and I got to find the email. So we'll just keep talking, and I'll see if I can run across it.
Now let me ask you this though: why does a guy who's not a highly touted prospect like a David Bodie all of a sudden is a guy that seems to be ready right from the get-go to be a major league player? Is it because he's never had any? Now here's the big problem. Say, and you could name the guy. I will pick on the Sox because I think it's been prevalent on the Sox. But you take Rodon, Jimenez, Kopech, Fulmer, those guys all were almost built up to be stars before they ever even played a game in the majors. So the expectations were great and the experience wasn't there. Where you had a guy like Bodie who didn't have that pressure on him even in the minors and was able to learn how to play the game and came up immediately and was able to play well at the major league level.
Sometimes the talent just slips by.
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes, or it just suddenly goes, I'm here. This is where I always wanted to be. I ain't going back.
Well, you know, I remember always hearing, like if you look at, say, Johnny Bench, and he wasn't in the minors for long, but you look at his hitting record in the minors, and it's not super impressive. And there's a lot of guys who are Johnny Bench type guys who have the same experience in the minors. But one thing that a lot of those guys will say is, well, in the minors, the pitchers don't have the control, okay? So you're not seeing as many balls around the plate. Now you get up to the majors, and all of a sudden the ball is around the plate, and that all of a sudden is good for a lot of guys.
Yeah, because a lot of these guys are coming up from, you know, how many guys actually go all the way up and go play AAA ball? A lot of times you're seeing these guys coming up for AA.
Yeah.
And the pitchers may not have quite reached that maturity stage.
Yeah.
Since you were talking about Baltimore, did Chris Davis play last night?
He did. His average is up to like 155.
155.
Which is pretty good considering what he started out.
Yeah. I got this from on April 12th.
I think he hit a home run last night.
I got this on April 12th.
Okay.
From Steve Allsbach. And it was the usual, as a stat boy popped in with something.
Yeah.
He said, this popped out from under the basement door this morning. Great Polonius's apparition. What in the hell is going on in Baltimore? I've seen slumps in my time, but Chris Davis may want to think of his post-baseball career or at least look at housing in Norfolk, Virginia, where the AAA team plays. His season last year was one for the books, ranking up there with Adam Dunn's first foray with the White Sox. You'd think that was a blip for Davis, but he's picked up where he left off. Some numbers since September 8th, 2018. 21 games, 77 plate appearances, 69 at-bats, 1 hit.
Wow.
No home runs, no runs batted in, 7 walks, 36 strikeouts, batting average .014. On-base percentage, 117. OPS, 117. A batting average of .014. Just for a hoot, I looked up how many pitchers, minimum of 50 plate appearances, had a batting average of .014 or worse.
Nobody, right?
There were 5.
Oh, 5, okay.
Ernie Koob of the 1916 St. Louis Browns. Carl Drews of the 1949 St. Louis Browns. Bill White of the 1950 White Sox. Bob Buell of the 1962 Braves and Cubs.
Okay.
Ron Herbel of the 64 San Francisco Giants.
Huh.
All went hitless that season, but at least Koob had the smarts to keep his bat on his shoulder and drew 15 walks for a .268 on-base percentage. Bill White went 0 for 61 in 1950, a record until Bob Buell said, hold my beer, and went 0 for 70.
I remember he was a bad hitter.
And Ron Herbel was even used as a pinch hitter in 1964, proving that then-manager Alvin Dark's cornbread wasn't baked all the way through. For on-base futility, you need to look no further than Ivan Nova, who topped his .020 OBP in 2017 with an .019 in last year. Congratulations, Ivan. We knew you could do it. Now, according to Baseball Reference, since 1961, there have been some 3,140 seasons of a pitcher with 50 or more plate appearances for that season. In 2,715 of those instances, the on-base percentage was higher than 117. That's an 86.5% chance that the pitcher would have a higher on-base percentage than a man who purportedly is a better hitter than the guy on the mound. I'm looking at Davis's stats over the stretch, and I'm thinking, this is why we have the designated hitter? Baltimore's pitchers last year had a 136 OBP. I'd like to see the sabermetricians explain why keeping Davis in the lineup is a good thing. But for God's sakes, either send the guy back to AAA to get his confidence back, or teach him how to pitch, or make him a ticket sales rep. This is just painful.
Yeah, well, I think probably because, what do we have, 30-some major league teams?
Yeah.
Who knows if whatever they have in the minors would even be,
who knows
you
what's
think it would
even
be better than that. I mean, there's probably still quite a few guys in the minors who could do better than that, obviously. But I'm thinking that because the competition is not as fierce with twice as many teams, that enables a guy with that type of an average and on-base percentage to stick. Like I say, I mean, he has bounced back a little bit. What was I'm curious though, did he include what Davis actually
hit
last year?
No.
I mean, for the season?
No. I'd have to go back and I'd have to go look that one up.
Yeah, because that would probably have a bearing on things too.
And I mean, he did have some power.
Yeah,
as I remember.
Yeah,
I'd have to go dig through baseballreference.com. It was, just going through and stats. It made me laugh. I was listening to the afternoon guys on the Score a couple of weeks ago, and one of them brought up the fact, teased it as they went to a commercial, and said Joey Votto did something today in a game for the first time in 6,870 plate appearances.
Yeah, he popped up the first. Yeah.
And somebody said, I know baseball is statistics driven, but who in God's name would have tracked that?
Yeah. Although I actually for that's a pretty interesting thing from my point of view, because I guess the point would be that you would think in 6,000 and some at bats he would have probably done just about everything. Hit the ball to every portion of the field that you possibly could in almost every variety of way that you could. So
you would think that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would think that. That was.
But you're right. It's who actually is
How did
you look
they
at the box
determine-
score? You're seeing a fly out. I don't even know. Say if you looked at
you look at a box score, you're not going to see.
Broadcasters, okay, are keeping a box score in the booth, or they're keeping
a scorecard. Right.
I wonder how they. Okay, you got fly out, so that could be FO, or that could be you could just put a 7 down if it's a fly out to an outfielder or one of their numbers. But how do you designate a pop up to the infield?
I'm
not sure.
I don't know. I mean, everybody has their own ways of scoring.
Yeah.
Somebody may just have a P3 and circle, or an F3 if it was a foul out.
Actually, I have a lot less problem with them tracking something like that than some of this other ridiculous crap that they...
you mean launch angle? You haven't accepted that yet?
Yeah, I haven't heard much about launch angle this year.
Or exit velocity? You're not into that yet?
No, I mean, when a guy hits the ball hard, he hits the ball hard.
That ball left the park at 118 miles an hour. Yeah. I don't care. It's out of the ballpark.
Yeah, that's right.
And his launch angle was 32.7 degrees. Don't care.
You mentioned Schwarber a little while ago. I still maintain that if I was the Cubs, I would just tell Schwarber, go up there and swing the bat. Just hit the ball. The other day, let's see, it was last week.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah, I think that's what they've had him doing now since the great leadoff experiment. But they were playing the Pirates.
One of the
I think it was the Pirates. I don't know if it was last week. It was I think the homestand previous to this one. And he came up with men on base where he could have, a base hit would have won the game, tied the game. He was the last out. And he took strike 3, and he didn't like the call. It was a close pitch. And, of course,
that that ended the game.
Yeah, everybody's talking about, the umpire this and the umpire that. I'm like, you know what? I started to think about Frank Thomas and Ted Williams, two really outstanding hitters, obviously. And the biggest knock on those guys, and I think it's legit, is that those guys would take a walk in that situation because if it was a legit ball, they would take. And my opinion is, I don't care if you're Kyle Schwarber, Frank Thomas, Ted Williams, you're a hitter, and you have an opportunity to win the game for your team by swinging the bat. Swing the damn bat. I don't care if it's a fraction low or a fraction off the plate, and that you're going to walk. In that situation, you need to hit.
It wasn't my pitch.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. So what else should we talk about?
Boy, you know what?
I
forgot we don't take the break.
Yeah, we don't have to. He's waiting for a station break, and we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, that's
John.
for sure.
John just sitting in there is going, nope, don't have to do that. Don't have to do that. What'd you think of? And I missed it, unfortunately, because I was busy doing taxes, and the weather started it, and they had to move the final round up so early. What'd you think of Tiger Woods? This is a rare time. We're actually going to talk golf for a moment here.
Yeah, no, I was happy for Tiger Woods because I always, did you see that montage of Steven Smith and all these people saying he'll never be back, he'll never win another tournament, and it lasts for about 20 seconds or maybe a minute, and the Tiger is sitting there, he's looking at it all, and then at the end, he gets this big smile on his face because this is after he's already won it. But I would just say he didn't overwhelm the course, but he played smart. He let the other guys sort of lose it, which is fine. That's still winning it. The object is to win, and I'm just sort of glad that he was able to do that.
There's another course that one of the majors is going to be played on this year. I can't remember which one, but what is it? Bethpage. That a lot of people think he could win that one too, just simply because he's the way he's always played the course. It's almost made for his game, the way he plays it.
Well, you could see over and I don't know how many years he's been struggling with this to come back, but over the course of that time, he would have good rounds, and the media would get a little bit excited about it, and is he back? And then he would fall back. But he put together a good, 4 days, 4 days of golf. So,
12 under,
he deserved the win, and like I say, he played smart, and it worked out really well.
It was interesting. There were some people talking on the radio, the talking heads on the radio, talking about great moments that they witnessed over their lifetime in sports. A lot of them put up, they said, this was a great moment just to see him coming back.
Yeah.
Other moments that were mentioned were 2016 Cubs winning the World Series. Somebody else brought up the 80 Miracle on Ice Olympic team. I was thinking of, I could agree with those. I was also thinking of Muhammad Ali holding the heavyweight title 3 different times. Those are moments that kind of made me think about great moments in sports, including this. And I also think one of the greatest shots I ever saw on a golf course was Tiger that one year when he won it and chipped out. I think it was on 16.
From under that tree?
From under that tree, chipped out on 16, and that thing just turned and rolled and hung up on the lip of the cup just long enough so you could see the Nike swoosh on the back of it and fell in.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a better golf shot than that one. I doubt it.
And
even as great as Tiger,
was it Larry Mize that won the Masters in a playoff one year with a chip shot from about 140 yards out that went right in?
I'm not sure about that.
I don't know. I'd have to go back but I remember that. But that shot of Tiger's was probably the greatest golf shot I've ever seen.
Even as great as Tiger and Jack Nicklaus and Arnie Palmer and other guys you could name have been, I think Sam Snead still holds that record for 80. He won 82 tournaments in his career.
Is it still Snead's?
I think so.
I couldn't remember if it was him or Nicholas.
Yeah, I don't know if Nicholas. I don't think Nicholas broke the record. I'm not sure, but 82 tournament wins is phenomenal. If anybody broke it, that's obviously even more phenomenal.
Yeah. Now you got me. Now you got me
Well,
curious.
let me ask you a question while you're looking. Is this a new rule in the NBA that you have to have a superstar on your team to even have a chance to win it? I mean, because why are they even playing the season? Because by my recollection, probably about at least 80% of the teams don't have anybody they could even come close to calling a superstar.
Let's see. Top 7 golfers with the most PGA Tour wins. Number 7, Billy Casper, 51. Number 6, Byron Nelson, 52. Number 5, Arnold Palmer, 62. Number 4, Ben Hogan, 64. Number 3, Jack Nicklaus, 73. Number 2, Tiger Woods, 80. Number 1, Sam Snead, 82. Most wins in a year, 11. Won 11 tournaments in 1950.
That's a lot of winning in the golf. Yeah.
First win was the 1936 West Virginia Closed Pro, and his last win was the 1965 Greater Greensboro Open. Think of that, 29 years between your first win and your last win.
They were talking one day on the Cubs broadcast about when he teed the ball up at home plate and hit the scoreboard.
Hit the scoreboard.
And they were trying to estimate how far that went. And the one thing that there's probably somebody around who could tell you this, but I'm wondering if was the ball coming down so it wouldn't have traveled all that much further, or was it going up? And
that's a good question.
I was picturing it as going up, but I mean that doesn't necessarily mean it's true.
Yeah.
But that's I don't know how long is that shot. That's a long way to hit even a golf ball.
Yeah.
So, but I think I think probably there's other golfers who could do it, because when you don't have the only object is to hit the thing as far as you can. You're not scoring, so there's probably a lot of guys who might be able to do that as well, that have played and are still playing. So
yeah,
I think the big thing for Tiger, though, the biggest issue for him, I don't think his game, his game was rusty from being off, but I think the big issue was overcoming the back surgeries that he's had, because that's such an integral part of a golfer's game.
Yeah, because that would throw your stance off. That would throw just maybe the way your torque when you're turning to hit the ball.
Yeah.
And I mean, that can make a huge difference.
Oh, for sure.
Huge difference in somebody.
I have a friend who's, I think he's about 6'8", 6'9", and he was a good golfer. And a few times we had gone out just to the driving range to hit, and he could hit the ball a long way. But I mean, when you say the torque, especially I think too, as the golfer, the taller the golfer is, the more torque you're talking about. And I just look at this guy, and for me, I mean, I hit a golf ball okay, but I'm not great. But he knew how to hit a golf ball. He knew how to swing a golf club. And when you watch this guy, even an amateur like myself would say, "Oh my God, the torque that this guy!" I mean, you could tell his whole back is just contorted, and then comes through, and that's probably where he gets all of his power.
Sure.
So it's when you have a golfer's back is really critical to what he does, no question.
Yeah, and I've given up on, not that I ever was very good or ever played very much, but in March when the doctor told me, he said, you got a pretty fair amount of arthritis in your lower back and in your hip.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe it's time to donate the golf clubs.
Give the golf clubs up.
To donate the golf clubs to Goodwill.
Now, let me go back to my question, though. So the Bulls have no chance to ever be a contender if they don't get a superstar?
Never again. Never again.
That's
it. They'll never be a contender.
There's no team in the NBA today that could just, on a good team effort with good players, win out over a team that's got superstars.
That's correct. That's the way the game is played now.
So why the hell should I ever watch an NBA game?
We're watching it. We're watching the on Sunday after the Sox game was over. Switched over to the NBA playoffs, and it was the Clippers and Golden State. And I said, gee, keep this in mind. There's, however, what is it, 30 teams, 32 teams in the NBA?
Something like that.
That play an 82-game season, and then you have to go 3 rounds in each conference just to get to the finals. They have Golden State win it again.
Yeah.
Why don't we just...
hey, well... Put Golden State together with whoever you think is the most superstar team in the East.
There you go.
Just play it.
Why
are we wasting our time with all this TV action?
Why are we doing this with 82 games, regular season, and 4 series to win a title? And if you go 7 games in each series, that's another 28 games.
Yeah.
So, you got to play 100 games for Golden State to win.
Yeah.
You could play as many as 100 games. Why don't we just give it to Golden State or put together an all-star team from the East?
Now, I'm going to be really old, show my age and be old-fashioned here. Do you think that like a guy like Steph Curry, even going back to the Jordan era, the 80s, that was the 80s or the 90s?
80s and 90s.
Now, obviously they eclipsed the Bulls' record for most wins in a season a few years ago.
Did they win 73?
73.
Okay.
But do you think, I'll tell you what, I mean, Steph Curry and whoever else is out there is benefiting because I watch these games, and one of the things that makes them unwatchable is they play absolutely no defense at all.
Yeah.
Okay, when they say, guys, now, and here's another thing I'm going to run by you because I know you're an MSU guy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, without Draymond Green, I don't care who they have. Without Draymond Green, they're just as they're no better than anybody else.
They're average.
They are.
There is something about him.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it is. He's.
Well, he does the dirty work.
He's old school.
He gives them what they need. You know what? When they're not hitting those threes, he's keeping that ball alive, whether it's on the floor, rebounding
or whatever. He's old school.
Yeah.
He's the guy that goes down and cleans up the crap.
Yeah.
And kicks it out to somebody so they can go down and post up for a 3.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm tired of seeing the solution to everything is
the 3.
Post up for a 3.
Yeah. Well, especially when you see guys, you got 4 defenders back, and none of your guys have caught up to you, and you're winging that 3 up there.
And you're winging a 3 up there.
That's good.
And I don't know if it was in the game Sunday with the Clippers or another game, but I think it was this where somebody had a fast break, and he's down basically with a clear shot right up the lane and pulls up and shoots a 3. And I'm going,
it's
God,
getting to be crazy.
Please.
I mean, what do you need coaches for then? If that's the way to. I watched the game one night that this was before the playoffs. I think in fact, I know it was Golden State was playing the Lakers. I'm like, you know what? I could go to the park and watch a bunch of kids on the basketball court, and to me, it's obviously the ability level is different, but it's the same game. It's like run around, play park ball, alley ball, whatever you want to call it, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay big money to see that. No, I'm not.
No,
I'm not.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't interest me. I watched. We watched. I didn't watch very much of the NCAA tournament either. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had it set. We recorded the Michigan State games and watched. I think we came down and watched the end of the Monday night game.
Well, let me ask you this. With the final four teams, because it was MSU, Virginia, Texas Tech, right?
Right,
And
and
who's
then-
the fourth team?
Duke. Duke.
Was it Duke?
Yeah. Didn't they make the Final Four?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
it was
because
Duke.
Michigan State defeated Duke.
So, okay, that's right. So you know what?
I had to think for a second.
The prospect of no, Michigan State couldn't have beat Duke because if they were in the Final Four, neither of them made the Final Two.
Oh, wait a minute. That's right.
So Michigan State, did they beat Duke to get to the
You
Final
had
Four?
Virginia, Michigan State, Texas Tech.
Boy, I can't remember.
Boy.
But my question to you is,
God almighty world, we can't remember this.
now I know you would have been interested for sure if Michigan State would have made the title game.
Mm-hmm.
But the inference that I got in the papers was that if you ended up with, say, Duke not being in the championship game, I think they would have loved to see, if it was possible, and I don't know what side of the brackets they were on, they would
Auburn.
have
Auburn.
Auburn, okay. That's right, Auburn was really hot.
Yeah.
The only team that I think was palatable to TV of the Final Four was Michigan State, I would think. But as a prospective viewer, did you have any problem? Were you less interested because it was Virginia, Texas Tech, or were you had about the same level of interest, or what?
I probably was less interested because of the matchup.
Yeah.
Although, Virginia, I think the rap on Virginia was they'll go out there and bore you to death with a game.
Although I didn't see Virginia play, Jim, but I was surprised that Virginia was even thought to be a better defensive team than Texas Tech, because I saw Texas Tech play a little bit, and I'm like, Virginia's better defensively than them?
I thought that too when they were, I thought I saw some of the. I did watch a little bit of the Texas Tech Michigan State game, and I thought, holy cow, holy crap, Texas Tech knows how to play defense.
Yeah.
A lot, and it surprised me. So I don't know. I don't think it was a terribly. I don't know what it was like. I don't know if it was a terribly sexy final.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to use those terms, you're right. It wasn't. I would totally agree with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, still, if you're and I'm not claiming to be a basketball junkie, but I would think a real basketball fan, college hoops fan, would probably not even care. I mean that because you got two good teams. Obviously, you make it to those to the final two. You're good.
If you look at that, you had two good teams. You're out there to watch a good basketball game, and you got it.
Now, do you think that if the Bulls get really lucky and get Zion Williamson, do you think they'll ever lose another game?
Only if Derrick Rose is signed as a free agent.
That'll complete the whole thing.
That's the only piece that's missing.
No, I am so. I'm looking at. Believe me, I've seen Zion Williamson. I think he's going to be a really good player. He's obviously got the talent and the body and everything else. But when I kept see them drool over Zion, and hopefully he'll be a good player. I'm not sure that you can predict that anybody will be as good as they're saying that he is. I mean, I think that's unpredictable, really. I mean, a guy could be good, but don't forget he's always going to be on a crappy team to begin with. But I started to think, geez, you know what? I thought the last guy who was like the greatest thing since sliced bread was a guy named Michael Porter Jr. So I decided I was like, what the hell happened to that guy? So I decided to look up Michael Porter Jr., and I don't think he's played a game in the NBA yet, and he's been in the NBA for 2 years.
Oh, Lord.
So, and I'm thinking, boy, all of the pundits, the Bulls got to draft Michael Porter Jr.
I remember that
available.
one. Yeah. Oh, my God. They got to take him. They got to take him.
Yeah, and look where he would have been. Boy, he would have been looking good in that nice suit that he bought with all that money they gave him.
That's right.
He'd
He'd be looking
there.
good sitting
He'd be
on the
the
bench.
best dressed fan in United Center.
He'd be sitting on the bench looking really good.
Really great. And he'd have a good seat, too.
Oh, great seat. But yeah, I don't think you will never see another basketball team that'll play together as a team and win the NBA title because they don't have a superstar. We just have a bunch of. We just have a bunch of.
Again.
We've got a bunch of lunch pail guys that go out there and do the job.
Well, having said that though,
And Bob Cousy's spirit will be looking down, going, "Oh God."
I think Paxson has the right idea of saying, "Okay, we like Markkanen and we like Levine.
You've got some.
They added Porter, who's a very good player, and they've got Carter had his season cut short, but I think he's going to be good.
Yeah.
So let's just say, I know that they're iffy about Chris Dunn, although I don't think they want to jettison him, but they don't want him to be the. So say they get a starting point guard, and you have Markkanen and Levine, and Porter and Carter. That's plus the guard. And of course you have to improve your guys off the bench, which is a project they have to work on. But you mean to tell me that those four and a good point guard is not a competitive team or a team that if they got hot couldn't go a long way in the playoffs?
All right, let's getting into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going to be seated?
Yeah,
Eighth?
I don't know. Eighth. Well, they could. You know what? I think they could do better than that if everybody stays healthy and everybody improves again, which they should. They're all young. Well, who knows?
If they all wind up, if they wind up again in this middle of the pack, they're going to wind up being in basketball draft purgatory again.
But see,
they're
the whole
enough
thing,
to make
Jim.
the playoffs, but not good enough to find your superstar.
You know what? I run into Ron Stock all the time, and he's a big White Sox fan.
Yeah.
He's rooting for the Sox to lose all the time, so we could get that draft choice. How many? If you
good, show
I've
Earl
never
Cunningham.
read anybody do a detailed history of the draft choices of all these different sports, but my guess is that first off, a number one draft choice, and I'm not talking about the number one overall, but if you took every team in NHL, NBA, MLB, NFL, and you analyzed their first draft choice in every draft they had, my guess is you might have a 50-50 thing as who made it and who didn't.
That's an interesting point, and that's another thing that I've been thinking about as I had this idea of can't miss as who missed.
Yeah.
Looking at the draft from that aspect, too. You go back a number of years ago, quite a number of years ago now, the NBA draft used to be 10 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cut it to 2.
Yeah. Right.
Because when you looked at the stats, if you were drafted in the first round in the NBA, and again, there weren't quite as many teams then.
Right, there was not as many.
You had about a 90% chance if you were drafted in the first round of making the roster.
Mm-hmm.
In the second round, you had about a 65 to 70% chance of making the roster. In the third round, you had a 20 to 30% chance of making it in the roster. And in the fourth round and beyond, good luck in the CBA.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can find a team in Europe to play for.
Well, let me ask you this question, Jim. You know, today in the NFL, we got this big schmackus deal of,
schmackus?
We got
a schmackus?
Yeah, we got the big schmackus deal. We got the what do they call it, the combine, and everybody's lifting weights and running around stuff and sprinting and blah blah blah, doing everything but playing football.
All of a sudden, I think I'm doing the show with Jackie Mason.
And they're analyzing.
I got a schmuckus and they're running around.
So they're analyzing all this stuff. Now, are they any better or more accurate than in the days when they just pick up the Sporting News and look at the All-American team and say, "Yeah, we're drafting Terry Baker in the first round"?
And you go back.
Are they any better,
and
Jim?
Have they progressed on? I remember in the days that the Bears scouting organization they had Blesto. And then when the Vikings added to it, there was Blesto V.
Blesto V. Yeah. Bears, Lions, Eagles, Steelers, Orioles, or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. That's the wrong sport.
I don't know. Wrong sport. But, but, yeah. And then, are they any better?
Are they? Really? Does it turn out any better?
And we give them their psychiatric tests and see what right. And then and then they go out and get arrested for spousal abuse.
Which reminds me of one of the funniest things I think I ever saw in the sports section when Kyle Turley, who was the lineman for the Saints, I think basically, had to go for sensitivity training because he was doing something off the field he shouldn't be, and I'm like, wait a minute, he's an offensive lineman in the NFL. He's got to go for, sensitivity traiing? I go, wait, this is, totally counterproductive to what he does for a living, isn't it?
Oh, all right. Well, this has been an interesting show. We've talked about a variety of things, including schmackuses.
Okay, could we look up what a schmackus really is? My dad used to say, that's a big schmackus deal. I still don't know what a schmackus is.
I don't know. And my old man saying when he would get exasperated, he would go, Sacramento cheap shot crap. So I don't know what that meant either.
I mean, yeah. I've looked up schmuck, schmagiggle, schlemiel, schlemazel. I had never looked up schmuckus.
The way you did that and started talking about their running and their doing.
It was a good segue, wasn't it?
It was a great
whatever you
segue.
want to call it.
I thought,
I don't know.
oh my God, I've got Jackie Mason.
Jackie Mason is here. They're running around and they're lifting and they're jumping and they're doing everything but playing football.
I remember, I saw him in concert twice, and he's maybe 3 times. He's probably one of the funniest men ever.
You know what?
He had the one. He had the one where he talked about all these people going around. He goes, do you eat Cajun food? We eat Cajun food. We love Cajun food. He goes, big deal. It's pint fish.
But you know what? Joe Gentile would play Jackie Mason cuts from his albums or his show, whatever. And I remember the one thing I loved, he'd talk about Kissinger. And, Kissinger, one of the smartest men on earth. How do you know, though? You can't understand the word he says. Blah, 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 and he does Kissinger. And, you understand maybe 2 words out of what he says. How did he know he's so smart? You don't even know what he's saying.
You go find a clip of Don Rickles referring, and they were in the audience, referring to De Niro and Martin Scorsese. He says, in doing a movie with De Niro, with Scorsese directing it, and you got De Niro suddenly going, and I said, Marty, I can't understand a damn thing he said. He goes, shh, 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 shh. He's brilliant. He's brilliant.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Man, oh, man.
Yeah, and there was a clip of an outtake of a scene from Casino, where they're supposed, Rickles was the pit boss, and the set is at Rickles' house.
Rickles was the pit boss?
Rickles was a pit boss.
It was
pit boss in Casino.
Oh, wow, okay.
And, De Niro was the casino owner.
Yeah.
And they got this scene. It's supposed to be at Rickles' house and sitting at the bar. And, he's got a drink. De Niro's in front of there, and he's got his script alongside, and he's looking at it again. And he goes, he says, are you ready? He goes, wait a minute, I got to look one more time. And he goes, and Rickles said, what are we waiting for? I'm not going to understand a goddamn thing he says. And everybody's laughing.
Oh, man.
God. Oh, God. I said nasty words today. I feel so free that we don't have
Jim, the whole time we've been doing the show, I've been listening to the Whistler at the same time.
I know. I've been hearing that,
too. I heard the
too.
Whistler whistling. I didn't know the Whistler was on this. I thought he was on later, like 10 o'clock. This is too early.
Yeah.
You ever listen to the Whistler?
Oh,
Jim?
sure.
Man,
sure.
I like the Whistler.
actually on Saturday Old Time Radio.
I love it. That's
listen to some of that.
actually one of my favorite shows.
All right, we got off on a sidetrack here again.
That's all
and
right.
We talked about schmuckuses, and we got all
Really?
confused. And
Now the next thing I have to look up is why so many derogatory Yiddish terms begin with a SCH and an M too.
come in next time, and we'll talk about that. You realize there was one other thought I had in mind. We're at an in-between age. You realize that?
We're in between age.
Yeah, we are too old for Snapchat, but we're too young for medical alert bracelets.
Oh, jeez.
You know, think about that.
Alert.
Think about that. Life, think about that.
You know, Jim, I have to say this though. You brought that up.
Medical alert bracelet.
Yeah, no, it's a guy I know, and I didn't know him super well, but I would call him a friend. A week or so ago, passed away, 52 years old, and what made me think of it when he said a medical alert bracelet. Okay, here's a guy 52. He's not thinking even that way. Comes home, apparently had ordered some food, brought it back home, never touched it, had a heart attack, died in his apartment, and took him 5 days to find him. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, so I guess, you could, actually you could probably make a case for anybody having one of those things, because
you never know.
Anybody can have it. I mean, anybody
you never know.
can have an emergency. So
you never know. Yeah. Well, on that upbeat,
happy note, I came in, and I was like, I had like about 3.5 hours sleep, and I was like, oh God, what are we going to say on this show? We ended with like a smile on my face, which was good. But now we're talking about. Why did you have to? But you brought it up, Jim. Why did you have to bring up the whatever?
Well, you ran with it.
What are those bracelets called, John?
Life alert bracelets.
Life alert bracelets.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Okay, someday we'll need one of those.
Yeah.
We'll be getting criticized for this now.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're doing ageism, sexism,
sexism, and
anti-Semitism. You name it, we did it today, boy.
All right, let's get out of here.
Jim's afraid of the lawsuit. Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, they can have $1.67 from me. All right. We've listened to the Whistler in the background. I've been hearing it too, so I think we will whistle our way out the door, and we'll do this again.
Let's make up our minds when we get off the air.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll do this again for another month and so. And I think I might get a college pitching coach and former college head coach,
cool.
Vern Hasty, to come on with us one of these times. I don't know if it'll be May or June.
Excellent.
We'll talk baseball with him.
All right.
All right, that's it. We're going to get out of here. We are Taillights.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Wednesday, April the 24th, the year 2019. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening.